What do you say about a guy like Brian Murray? Well, he was my earliest prime minister, right? Maybe that's why I'm naturally gravitate to conservative as opposed to liberalism. You know, he is a very charming and charismatic person. You know, he's always got an answer for everything. Well, if Jean Chrétien was so concerned about the native peoples, he was on Native Affairs for 17 years. You know, he always had that, right? If the liberals were so concerned about it, right? You know, in his own, like, you know, pompous, arrogant, you know, thing. I like people like that for sure. But, you know, yeah, he did negotiate NAFTA, as I think we could probably utilize the new NAFTA, or whatever the heck, MCU NAFTA or whatever it is, to more of our advantage, and so on and so forth. What did he also do? He also did, he's a very good prime minister for sure, right? You know, like, I don't know, he's right up par there with Stephen Harper, right? You know, these guys kind of get the economic growth, cutting red tape, getting things done. And I remember growing up, you know, things were well, right? Things were good, right? You know, sitting at my Irish grandmother's house, Irish descent anyways, and watching him on the news, right? You know, on the Mike Duffy report and whatnot. But things have changed, right? Things have greatly changed now. We've gotten too much bureaucracy and red tape and whatnot, and multiculturalism, and that's gone far out of control. But during his tenure as prime minister, things were, you know, rounded. You know, like they were, you know, fair to all people, both the immigrants and the multi-general Canadian. I would say things were well rounded, but they weren't so, you know, so biased as they are now. But under the you know, Mulroney years, right? You know, those were good times, and economic prosperity was throughout the land, and housing was affordable, and inflation was an all-time low. He did, you know, did the old reverse flip, right? You know, he did, you know, use that old superior British intellect to, you know, steady the waters, right? You know, and so we could, you know, ride upon them and to economic prosperity, right? You know, as right now it's more the currents, you know, have shifted changes under Trudeau, and you know, it's rough. It's they're almost like rapids now, right? You know, the political current, right, is more like a rapid now, right? So, you know, Mr. We could use another Brian Mulroney again for sure, right? He was good, right? The only other one who did ride him was, you know, Stephen Harper, right? Stephen Harper, well, the phenom, the icon. Well, that's another story, right? But back to, you know, he was, you know, quite the charismatic individual there. Old Brian Mulroney, right? You know, obviously he loved immigrants a lot more than I do because he married one, right? But you know, but that's another story here. We all know my views on multiculturalism and crap like that, right? You know, but he was, you know, a great man. For those of you who are born in the Generation Z, you didn't know, you know, the wonder that was Brian Mulroney, right? He was, you know, it was like a Canadian Reagan, if you don't know who he is. He was quite like one of those guys. And during that period of time, those were some good times, both culturally and economically, for all Canadians, right? We had it was a wonderful time, a joyous time to grow up, right? With, I don't know, just the overall cultural landscape was a little much more smooth and warm and robust, with lots of our British cultural ideas, which kind of, you know, which is the forming foundation of this great nation. you know, but he really came to the forefront, and yeah, you know, things were really going well. I would think the GM plants were all going well at that point. You know, as they were all closed down under Trudeau. You know, that's, you know, our fearless leader. But I digress. But it was a good time for all us Canadians under Brian Mulroney, right? You know, his legacy will cast a shadow so broad and wide across this land that solar eclipse won't even do it justice, right? Well, so I'll miss Brian Mulroney, right? He was quite the statesman, right? He was last of the great, you know, statesmen, as Ronald Reagan was last of the great communicators. We shall miss him indubitably.